Mr. Putt's maiden voyage. Let's see. It's supposed to be overstable. Feels overstable. It's overstable. Okay. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to my review of the NSH Custom Discs Mr. Putt. This is a 3D printed, very overstable approach disc, and it is in my bag. I really like this disc. It is unlike just about anything else that I have tested. This yellow one here is the first 3D printed disc of any kind that I ever had a chance to test. You know, to be honest, I didn't even realize that anybody was making PDGA approved, legit golf discs with a 3D printer until I first heard about these. So NSH Custom Discs, the logo and stuff is actually printed onto the back of this disc, but then you can read it through the flight plate. Mr. Putt is the name of this particular model. It's not really a mold since it's not injection molded, and rather it is 3D printed. So you can see there's all kinds of textures and patterns going on with this disc. You might be able to hear kind of scratches under your fingernail there, and he can manipulate the textures and provide different types of effects on the surface of these discs, which is quite interesting. Like this one here has some patterning to it. This disc is called the Borg, unbelievably overstable driver, and I've had a chance to check out a few of these now, which is great. Thank you very much to NSH Customs for sending me these to mess with and to review and to test and everything. This one is called Guns. This one is a little bit more of a kind of traditional design and shape to it, but you can see it has that clear top, textured again, and it has the kind of lemon yellow on the underside, and then the clear kind of catches the light. Very interesting. And then there's also a new one that he just sent me. That is the newest one that just got PDGA approved, the Defiant. And so far, I'm really liking this one as a straighter complement to the Mr. Putt, but also has this really perfectly flat top and a very chunky rim to it. So let's take a closer look at the main star of the show. I just figured since I had the opportunity to show off some of the other options from the company, and they're brand new on the channel, I figured I might as well show you a couple other things. But Mr. Putt, as you can see, is absolutely just, level tabletop flat. There's no dome whatsoever on this thing. It's basically as flat as it's going to get for a golf disc. And the sides are the same deal, quite flat. The underside here, you can see that the rim is pretty chunky. There's some mass on that, but it's not very deep. All of these attributes of this disc just make it feel really good and work really well, especially for me as a forehand disc. I'm really enjoying this thing for my forehand approaches, and it's also great for backhands as well. We'll get more into the flights a little bit later in the video. But yeah, predominantly it is an approach disc, short range, overstable approach disc that is more overstable, has more fade, and it is not as glidey as my VIP harps that I will throw more for backhands or longer forehands, or if I want them to kind of fly straighter, a little bit straighter overall. This disc is definitely meaner than a harp in that kind of short range vibe. So the only real thing I didn't like about the feel of this disc is when it showed up, the nature of it being printed, I presume upside down like this, there was a little bit of an overhang on this top edge that I found to be sharp, so I used a little piece of sandpaper and just knocked that edge off. As soon as I did that, this thing started to feel so nice to me, and that's when I started testing it and it went straight into my bag. Like I became obsessed with the feel of it, and I just kept, I'll do that, by the way, just as a little behind the scenes here for the long-time viewers. When I get a disc in, a lot of times the kind of initial process of testing the disc happens when I'm just like sitting around the house, and I just will feel it. I'll hold it in my grip, I'll hold it in my forehand grip, and just like have a feel for the plastic. I'll usually wash it with soap and water to see if the grip changes. All that kind of stuff kind of happens before I even get a chance to throw the disc. Sometimes I already know how I feel and what I like and don't like about the feel of a disc before I even get it out into the field. The material has some flexibility to it. but it's relatively firm overall. I've not had a chance to really test this yet, but I hear these are extremely durable. This particular material is supposedly very, very tough stuff. I have not actually had a chance to throw this thing enough to really beat it up, but I mean, what's going to happen to it? This rim is so chunky here. I don't really ever see it starting to naturally flip too much or whatever. We'll see how it goes in terms of the durability, but yeah. Let's move on to taking a look at this thing next to some other options. And I have a couple of some Ricky specials here. We have the Ricky Pig and also the brand new prototype Slammer. Let's take a look at these guys real fast. And you're going to see right away that the Mr. Putt is a totally different beast, of course. But actually lined up there, the depth doesn't seem too different to me, to my eye, actually. So yeah, it's hard to say. Maybe it is a similar depth to other, you know, approach discs, and some people find that the harp is a little bit deeper of an overstable approach disc. And if you're not familiar, the new Sockibomb Slammer, this is a prototype that DD sent me. This is basically like a harp bottom and slammer top with that thumb track there. Also, the Ricky Pig, I believe from 2019. Throw that up next to this guy as well. Once again, vastly different. These two aren't hugely dissimilar in terms of what you use them for, of course. Overstable approach discs, but I mean, couldn't be much more different in terms of the actual design and feel in the hand. And just for you guys who haven't had a chance to check it out, here's a quick look at the Slammer next to the Pig. Just for you Ricky fans out there, in case you haven't had any opportunity to see that. So, I've not tested the Slammer yet. The Ricky Pig, similar in terms of the way it behaves out there on the course compared to Mr. Putt, but really this thing just feels unlike anything else. And if you like the feel of it, it's going to be one of those discs that you're not going to be able to replace, at least not anytime soon. There's really nothing else on the market that I can really think of to switch to if I wanted something that felt like this. You know, the closest thing you can maybe think of would be like a polecat, since it has the flat top, flat sides, kind of slab-sided. But again, there's not nearly as much thickness, mass to the rim. This thing is shallower and mean overstable. So let's talk about the flight of this guy. As I said, I typically use it for forehands, but it is very effective for backhand shots as well. What I like about it for backhand is when I want to throw up and over something, or if I want it to dig and not skip. It's not a skippy disc by any means. I have not really seen any circumstances where it really takes a big jump skip. Could possibly happen based on, you know, the ground that you're playing on and stuff, but it typically will fade hard enough when you give it height that it will dig when it lands, which is a really nice attribute, especially for a short range overstable approach disc like this disc is. Another really effective use of this disc is those flat sides, flat edges make it really, really intuitive for forehand rollers. You can just pop it down straight up and down. You don't even really have to put much angle on it, maybe a little bit of angle, and it will just go for days depending on the ground surface. Sometimes I've been able to throw this thing and forehand roll it as far as I'm throwing like a distance driver or a driver. So it goes far on those forehand rollers, and it's really effective for that. But yeah, all in all, it's a really solid mold that I could use pretty much exclusively as my overstable approach disc. I just like to have something that's not quite as mean. This thing doesn't like to fly very much. It's kind of low glide. You know, I didn't touch on any flight numbers earlier in the video. You guys probably figured out by now that there aren't any. These are 3D printed discs, and the founder of the company knows that flight numbers are super subjective and flawed, and he just doesn't like them, doesn't want to use them. So if you have offense to that, take it up with him. But you're not really going to find anything quite like this disc in terms of the feel and the design and stuff, but you could pretty much use this as your only overstable approach disc. I just like to have something that's a little bit more glidey for my backhand shots and for times where I want to stretch it out a little bit and still maintain a mostly overstable flight. This thing is almost like a mini Justice in a way. Kind of more similar in stability to that, but not quite as fast and not quite as far flying, depending, again, on you and your arm speed and all the different factors that go into it. But all in all, a very fun disc that I am enjoying having in my bag. And it's just kind of cool to have a super unique kind of boutique disc in your bag that not a lot of people know about these. Hopefully this video will help get the word out. Check out the link in the description to check out what NSH Customs is doing. They have 9 different models that are PDJ approved now. They have some really wild stuff that's crazy overstable and very, very interesting and different than a lot of the stuff on the market. And then they have some discs that are also kind of more similar to traditional injection molded discs as well, for people who want to look into that. So always great to work with a new company. I appreciate them sending me a bunch of stuff to test and review. I appreciate all of you guys for your continued support. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for future uploads. And I will talk to you all very soon. Oh, huge shout out to my Disc Golf Nerd Patreon support team as well. They're awesome. Continue to hook me up with a lot of financial support that makes a big difference. So I appreciate all of them. I appreciate all of you for watching. And I'll talk to you later. Cheers.